I'm Pavel Voice, I'm the art director on Three Kingdoms.
I'm Dom Starr, and I'm a senior designer.
And I'm Jason, lead writer for onrpg.com and MMOHuts.com. There are so many important and noteworthy characters in the Three Kingdoms timeline. Was it difficult to stat and create so many of them and not make them clones of each other?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was definitely the most difficult thing was choosing which to put in the forefront, because obviously there are so many of those characters, and we had to choose and decide, choose our focus, and it was always tricky to but also at the same time it was quite obvious there's some obvious characters that you have to have there, but I think in terms of that they're all so well described. It was actually a lot of the times it was quite easy to come up with their identities, in terms of the game and how
because they're already so well established.
Yes, exactly. In terms of the characters and in the relationship system and the personalities, we have their personalities. So straight away it lends. We essentially designed the system based on the personalities and the way that they kind of interacted in the Three Kingdoms. In a way, it kind of was a great frame of reference.
But also, obviously trying to create that much variety is quite complicated. But in basing a number of our systems on the 5 elements of the Wuxing, we have 5 classes and we have 5 character attributes. Each class is stronger in each one, and certain characters obviously lend themselves more to being strong in one or the other. So each character will have their own career trait, their background trait,
right.
And we use that to sort of help tilt them in a direction that is more akin to how they would appear in the book. So, say Lu Bu, for example, he's a vanguard, a fire character, so his dominant attribute is instinct. But if we were just to balance him as a natural vanguard, his instinct would be good, but not that great. But he's Lu Bu, right? So
right.
You turn that up to 11, and he has a massive advantage, just innately.
Because he's a horrifying monster.
He's a beast.
I think some of the hardest things were actually assigning those elements, because everything fits into the elements. I mean, it was a Chinese philosophy that was kind of already written for us in that kind of construct and philosophy. However, having these characters and defining them as the elements was quite tricky. I mean, some of them were quite easy. Liu Bei is obviously earth. Lu Bu fire. Cao Cao, he's special. He's a hybrid. He's earth. He's water. He's a strategist, but he's also a commander.
So he kind of do everything.
Yeah, exactly. So he is a very unique character in that he has more kind of, he's further up the skill kind of paths than any of the others.
Yeah. And if you take the Wuxing as well, like water opposes earth, so he shouldn't naturally be good at that, but because he is, because he's a devious, cunning, warmonger. Yeah. We've put those attributes into his career trait.
He's the hero of chaos. He wrote manuals. He created strategies. On that sort of note, though, there are a lot of the Three Kingdoms era is very different from all the other Total War eras in terms of characters and gameplay, specifically because you'd create a whole bunch of new systems and mechanics for this game. What sorts of new major mechanics can players look forward to?
Well, as you rightly pointed out before, characters are kind of one of the major driving forces behind within the romance of the Three Kingdoms. And so for us, this was an opportunity for us to sort of turn our interpretation of characters as sort of people within a war scenario, like up to 11, and to deal with interpersonal relationships, like the human level stories that exist behind the conflicts that we have been painting through our previous games.
And also the fact that it's one country, one nation. Everybody was part of one empire, which has now collapsed. Relationships were established and formed and exist within this world, even though this world is now fractured into smaller kind of warlords and factions. And those characters are not tied to those factions. They move around, and I think that is one really powerful mechanic in the game that's not been present in Total War before, where a faction leader from a faction that's destroyed can survive and then seek employment with other factions. You know, I had a campaign as Liu Bei, and I had Zhang Yan join me he came into my recruitment pool. I could recruit him.
I just stomped your city, and now here you are.
So it's, you know, these things can happen. So, you know, that's really, really special.
We also try to do something a bit new with espionage. Instead of making it like you're moving sort of agent pawns around the map, doing stuff. It's a slow burning, long game where you're actually taking characters and sending them into the recruitment pool of rival factions, and then they will get hired.
Which again, we discussed last time.
And it works so well with this fluid pool of characters moving around.
That's probably one of my favorite things in Total War 3 Kingdoms.
I mean, it's a lot less. It's less proactive. You sort of check in on your spy, and you can see now he's a general, he's leading an army, and you can just follow him on the map. You're like,
it is.
There he is.
In a good position.
It really is the long game, but it makes it so much more worthwhile. And if it happens to you, it really
does happen.
Yeah. And obviously, just quickly, diplomacy as well. You know, forming coalitions. You know, trading items and you know far more kind of developed alliances, and you know it's all again lends itself very much to the material, to the period.
On the note of coalition, I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, because there's such a big part of this story, like the anti-Dongjua coalition. There was the coalition against the Yellow Turbans. They were a huge part of this series. If a PC player gets too powerful, can they expect the NPCs to start forming coalitions against them, sort of in the mid to late game?
Well, absolutely.
Is that something you start just kicking everyone's ass? And they're just start grouping.
Well, you'll obviously be trying to set up coalitions of your own
to
try and get the advantage. But yeah, the AI factions, the NPC factions, make full use of all these systems and do terribly effective. Like it's really good. It's impressive how good they are at stomping the uncautious expansionist player. And obviously, the more expansionist you are, the more of a threat you are. Your threat level goes up. Then they'll start forming coalitions for self-defense, and then eventually you're going to start on one of them, and their mates will come and defend their.
And obviously, the more as you expand, you also obviously win battles, and the choices you make with either executing characters or captives, all of these things will have ripple effects.
Yeah.
Because of relationships, you may have executed someone that was someone's friend, someone's kin, and all of all of your actions ripple through the world and affect other factions' kind of attitude towards you, which then fuels these coalitions and alliances, and and you'll see coalitions forming right at the start of the game, straight away, just because factions will vie to form them to survive.
Speaking of that again, I want to talk about the Guanxi system a little, because that's again something really new for this franchise.
That's what we're built to support the characterization.
It's very thematic. Yeah. What sort of benefits will raising these social connections with your generals have? Like, why should players care about doing it?
Well, if you're having characters fighting in a force together, as you have the three sworn brothers, by fighting alongside their sworn kin, they have advantages in battle, like high morale, better defensive capability. So by nurturing good relationships between your characters, they are going to survive a bit better when facing against unlikely odds, perhaps. Similarly, if they're fighting against or alongside rivals, they're going to get a bit more angry. It brings out the worst of them. They get a bit of an assault, an attack buff. Which can be good, but at the same time, if they happen to be fighting alongside each other, there are ripples into the campaign gameplay, dissatisfaction amongst themselves and also in the local populace. Yes, there are other effects. And in the case of someone defecting, they're going to have a grudge against you. You may never get them back. You may find yourself fighting against the very character who once served you, because you vexed them beyond the point of recovery.
So they go to join one of your enemies, and now
exactly that.
And you'll want to foster those good relationships to counter any negative impact on satisfaction from other sources. And it's also it's also important, and to do that, you may have to sometimes make some choices where you might have two very competent generals, but for whatever reason they're incompatible, and their satisfaction is dropping over time. So you might have to send them on assignments or just break them apart and try and somehow engineer a way of keeping them both, but away from each other.
Pav mentions compatibility, based on the traits a character has, they have an innate harmony or disharmony with each other. So if characters are in disharmony, they disagree with each other. Just by being ambiently together, they'll progressively hate each other more and more. Now you can remedy that if in the same army, for example, by winning great victories. But if they happen to lose a battle, then the effect of that will be twofold. So they'll be extra pissed off with each other.
They lost because of this harmony.
Exactly. They actually
exacerbate the problem.
Right. It's all the fault of the person who made them lose. So so you have to kind of pick those pairings, those character pairings, quite carefully.
Yeah.
Another thing I thought was kind of interesting is at least with the mode we played today, the scenario we played today, it starts right at the end of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. Yeah. That was sort of an interesting choice to me because normally games in this setting start either like with Heijin and the 10 eunuchs, or at the very beginning of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, and you've got to just smash your way through the whole northeast, and it's such a chore. I was sort of wondering what inspired that choice, and will the Yellow Turban Rebellion's impact on China be referenced in the campaign? So, say newcomers are familiar with it.
Well, we really wanted to. I mean, we wanted to set the stage. First of all, we wanted to
for the Three Kingdoms.
For the Three Kingdoms, right? And we wanted to, do it our way in a way as well. And one thing that just seemed perfect to us is the coalition collapsing, because straight away the coalition's fallen apart, and you've got all of the key players displaced across the map.
Right.
Cao Cao's independent at this point.
Exactly.
He's been chased off from.
So straight away you have all of these.
He's trying to get his city right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Sun Jian has escaped from the burning of Luoyang and has the seal.
So it just felt like the perfect kind of.
Really, everything started getting good.
And in terms of
perfect start position for us.
Exactly, and you've got the big bad. Dongzhou is there. Yeah. Coalitions, all hope is faded because the coalition's collapsed. Yeah. It's now up to you to make it good. Exactly.
Yes.
And in terms of players and learning about what came before that, we've got tried to quite to set the scene. With the intro cinematic sets the scene.
The loading screen. Then
you've got
narrative.
You've got your the character intro. Then you've got the loading screen. We've got dynamic loading screens. You may have noticed there are like 4 pages actually. It's longer than the actual load time. So if you listen to it because it's narrated, it gives you this is what happened. And then you've got your the campaign intro, which introduces you to the character. You kind of get a feel for what he's like, and all of this kind of combines to hopefully sell that narrative. And those dynamic loading screens will be different every time.
Okay.
They will change depending on your progress.
Okay.
So your actions in the campaign will inform the kind of recap you get when you load into your save game.
Yeah. That's really cool.
And certain characters are likely to be more involved with the Yellow Turbans at the start anyway, just their geographical position or what have you. So those ones, their flyovers will reference the Yellow Turbans and the need to smash them, basically.
Also, interestingly, every in this game, every time there is some kind of rebellion. Like in Total War, previously you had the Grey Rebels or whatever. Here you'll have separatist factions that can emerge within a faction, but also just unhappiness, public order rebellions will spawn Yellow Turban rebels. So you may have quashed globally the Yellow Turbans may have been quashed, but any unease, any upheaval, any rebellion will bring back the Yellow Turbans. They will
rise up.
They will keep right. Yeah. So they will they'll keep resurging if public order is not controlled.
Yeah. Time for one more.
Okay. Well, then I guess I'll just skip to the really important one. Is there any scheduled DLC or content updates that you guys can talk about? Because that's the thing everyone wants to know. They want to know what's the DLC, because that's such a big thing now. What can they expect down the road?
Well, we've obviously got the early adopter kind of yellow turban, playable factions, and as always, with the DLC, the way we approach it is what can we do to enrich the experience in the game, and we have a list. But that list is always changing, and we're always kind of tweaking. The more we play, the more feedback we get. We kind of try and find the most appropriate thing. So yeah, we. So
Zhongju's playable faction, the Yellow Turbans will be playable.
whatever
Maybe.
you know, whatever's possible, right? We always take you know, DLC is an ongoing process, right? So we get feedback if there's a massive you know, if fans really want something or they find it something, you know, they really like to see characters.
So they should be noisy about something if they want it.
Yeah, it's always, you know, I think it's we always like to listen to our fans, and if there's anything specific that they want, and you know, we haven't got it in the main release, we'll try and, you know, put it in.
So we will always continue to support that. And with the initial early adopter DLC, that is the Yellow Turners.
Okay.
So players can expect to have a crack at reigniting the flames of dissent.
That'll probably be my first. That'll probably be the first thing I do.
Reaching enlightenment.
Yeah.
For the yellow sky.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah.